All the mitts begin with Judy's Magic Cast On. First thing we're going to do is make a slip knot. I'm going to make a loop here like this, go through and pull that through. That is now a slip knot. Put it on a needle, and there's my tail. There's my ball yarn. The slip knot's on the top needle. I'm going to put the other needle underneath. So now we know we've got a top needle and a bottom needle. So now I'm going to take my left hand, put the tail yarn over the index finger and the ball yarn over the thumb. With my remaining 3 fingers, I'm going to grab both strands of yarn and tension it. See that? You must have tension. First, I'm going to show you the moves. The index finger will always load the bottom needle, like that. The thumb will come from the back and load the top needle. But first the hand flips over to the other side with the thumb back there. Notice the needle is above everything. And the thumb brings its yarn between the needles and over the top needle. So it just put a stitch up there. Then the hand flips back over with the index finger in front and it loads the bottom needle. So right now we have 2 on top and 2 on bottom. I'm going to show you what I want you to do to practice, and your learning will be so much easier if you do this. I want you to just practice doing them one at a time. First, practice putting stitches on the bottom needle with your index finger. Okay, now let's do the thumb. Remember, the thumb loads the top needle, and first the hand flips over to the back, beneath the needles, and then the thumb brings its yarn up between the needles and over the top. I want you to practice that until both of these moves, there are only these 2 moves, until they're both just automatic. So when you think thumb, the thumb does this. When you think index finger, the index finger does this. When you think thumb, the thumb does this. Index finger does that. Let's go back to the beginning. So put another needle underneath. Index finger gets the tail yarn, thumb gets the ball yarn, and let's actually start casting on. We start with 1 on the bottom because we need 1 down there. Then the thumb loads the top needle. Notice this index finger has a job. Every time we get 1 on top, it sort of takes control. Index finger on the bottom, thumb on the top, index finger on the bottom, thumb on the top, index finger on the bottom, thumb on the top, and so on. You will put on 18 in order to begin the tiny mitt. 18 means you have 18 on the top and 18 on the bottom. When you have what you need, you will take the tail yarn and tie it around the ball yarn, just the simplest of all knots. Tighten it up. And to begin knitting, you're going to turn to this side. Don't knit with the tail. And you're going to begin knitting like this. I'm going to pull this out and come back. So I'm just finishing up right side row 11. I know it's a right side row because the tail is there. That whenever the tail is there, it means you're on the right side. It's important that the last row before beginning the thumb is a right side row, and we're about to begin the thumb. So turn the thing over. There, notice that we haven't been touching these stitches down here at all. And now the next instruction is to knit 6. We're on the wrong side now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then wrap and turn. This is a short row trick. If I turned around and went back, I'd have a big gap there. So the goal is that that stitch right there, we want, if this were that stitch, we want to wrap the yarn around it to kind of pull it towards the hole, so there is no hole. Here's how you do that. I lift it off, bring the yarn to the front. See how I brought it to the front? Put that stitch back. So the yarn is now pulling in between there. And when I turn, because it's called wrap and turn, that was the wrap, this is the turn, that red yarn is wrapped around that stitch, just what I want. And now the next instruction, and we're on the right side now, is to knit 2. Only 2, not all the way. It said to knit 2 and turn. Not wrap and turn, just turn. Just turn means just turn around and go back. Next instruction is knit 4, wrap and turn. Right now you're probably thinking, what am I doing? Well, just do what I'm doing and you will get a very good result. So there I've knit 4. Now wrap and turn. Remember, we lift the stitch off that's going to be wrapped. We bring the yarn to the front, put the stitch back, and when we turn around, it has been wrapped and we've turned. Now the instruction is to knit 4 and simply turn. Notice there's a big difference between wrap and turn and just turn. And yes, we're getting a gap there. We want that gap. It's where your thumb is going to be coming out. Now it says, wrong side again, knit 6, wrap and turn. See that gap? That's where we turned last time. You always actually go just one beyond. Let's check. That's 6. Now, to wrap and turn, remember, we lift up the blue guy, bring the yellow yarn to the front, put him back. He's now been wrapped and we have turned. That's a wrap and turn. Next row, knit 6. Notice we're beginning to build a little triangle. Turn around, next row is to knit 8 and wrap and turn. You always wrap and turn when you're within the fabric. Up here, you just turn. So I lift that stitch off, bring the yarn to the front, put the stitch back. It is now wrapped and I have turned. Now we knit back up 8. Bet you're beginning to see a pattern here of coming down 8 to wrap and turn and then going back up 8. And I bet you can guess the next thing we'll do is we'll go down 10. Indeed we will. 2 more each time. 8. You see there's that gap. We always end up going to the one beyond the gap. So you can read your knitting. Now let's wrap and turn, lift it off, bring the yarn to the front, put the stitch back, turn around. We have wrapped and turned. Come back up 10, almost there. Okay. See that nice triangle we're making? And we're going to go down 12. So it'll be the longest 12. And we're going to wrap and turn. You lift that off. You bring the yarn to the front. You put it back on. And you turn. Notice there's one little lonely stitch down there. Don't worry about it. 1, 2, 3. In the full-size mitts, you'll have the arm down here. So, just so you know. So, I'm not even going to count on my way up. You know why? Because I know I'm going to go all the way to that point. So you don't have to count either at this point. You'll begin to know your way around the thumb, and you'll look forward to knitting the thumb. And now if you do what I just did, put your needle back in, because I just lost everything. Okay, last time we went down 12. Now we're going to back off 2 each time. So I'm only going to go down 10, and I'm going to wrap and turn, because I'm not allowed to turn around in the middle of the fabric down here without wrapping and turning. There we go. Okay, there we are. Turn around. And now if I went down 10 last time, I'm going to go down 8 this time. 7, 8, and back up. I'm not even going to bother counting. If it was 8 this time, next time I will go down 6. My rows are getting shorter and shorter. 5, 6. Wrap and turn. Come back up those 6. And you know that the next time it'll only be 4. Notice we're getting a rather nice little thumb there. Just 4. It's going so fast now. 2, 3, 4. And I know you won't forget to wrap and turn when you go down there. And I know that when you come up here, you'll just simply turn. So if that was 4, and it was, then this one will be a little 2. And the 2 will be the final short row. 1, 2, and of course we will wrap and turn. Go up to the top, which we're practically there already. And let's just look and see what we've got. We have this lovely triangle. And you can see that when it gets folded like that, it looks like a nice thumb or little finger would like to come through. So now that you might be thinking, how are we going to attach it to that? Well, we will in a minute. But first, you're going to go all the way to the bottom. Now you might notice you have got all these gaps gap, pair, gap, pair, gap, pair, all the way up. Don't worry about it, because I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of this wrong side row. When I turn around, you're going to see that all those little gaps have vanished. See? No problem. And now see, we're still separated here, but we're just going to knit all the way up there and live happily ever after. This will be the full 18 stitches. I hope that as you're watching this, you're getting excited. I have knit so many of these, and I still get excited every time I knit a thumb. I just love them. I'm going to show you a trick. When we knit this and knit this, yes, they're attached. But if you were to pull this one over here, just so it's in, they kind of switched places, it's kind of a nice little attachment. That is a special extra I'm giving you right now. Not essential, but pretty darn nice. Hey, look, we have a thumb. Now, the instruction will be knit until the sides match. So let's do that. There's no more wrapping and turning. We're doing just plain old full rows right now. My tail. You must complete a wrong side row before closing the mitt. We're going to close this with a 3-needle bind off. Now this is the right side because there's my tail. On this side, on the top needle, we have the purl bumps tucked right up against the needle. And let's put the needle down here in the bottom from the cast on. And you can see that there is, let me turn it around so you can see better. Notice that the purl bumps are tucked up right against there. We know they are because when we began, we started with the purl side facing us. It is essential that we have the purl ridge against the needle on both sides. This will happen if you start with the purl side facing you and you end with a wrong side row. Now we're pressing those little purl ridges together on the inside, and we're going to get another needle and do the 3-needle bind off. I'm going to put my extra needle through here and through here. In other words, I'm going through the first stitch on each needle, and I'm going to pull the yarn through, both of them at once, and then take them both off at once. Same thing with what are now the top stitches. Needle through, pull yarn through. Now I have 2, and now I'm simply going to pop one over the other because this is a bind off. Next 2, needle through, yarn pulled through, take them off. Now I've got 2, so I can pop one over the other. So it's very, very much like a standard bind off, except that you're always joining 2 stitches before you pop one over the other. This means that it becomes a join called a 3-needle bind off, where I am about to pop the last one over the last one. If you are like most knitters, like me, you were taught when you got to the end of anything, you'd better pull it through here and snug it up so it doesn't unravel. Notice that the one attached to the tail is coming along. I'm going to pull it back out a little. And the one that's attached to the knitting is going nowhere. They're both coming through that stitch. I'm going to do something. I'm going to pull the one that's attached to the tail all the way out. That one's still attached. Nothing can unravel. And I do not have any weird things sticking up that I can't get rid of. So here's our little mitt. Our little trick with keeping those purl ridges touching each other on the inside and doing the 3-needle bind off from the inside means that the only way we know where the seam is by finding the tail. And once I put that tail in, you'll never know. So there you are. Once you've knit this little mitt, you are ready to choose any mitt in the book. And I hope you have as much fun as I do. I am obsessed.